Waborada or Prinhandar Baub. It's really good to be with you all once again. I wonder if any of you know what's coming up in a few weeks. What are we celebrating in just over a week's time? Christmas. Now, Christmas these days is full of glitz and glamour, isn't it? With tinsel and trees, baubles and shopping and food and presents. There's so much happening at Christmas. But the first Christmas was very different. The first Christmas was very simple. The first Christmas, they had to make do with what they could find. It was all a little bit ramshackle, like this ramshackle room that I'm in. Shall I tell you the story of the first Christmas? It begins 9 months ago with a woman called Mary. And one day Mary was visited by an angel. That must have been quite amazing to be visited by an angel. And the angel said that he had a message from God. She was to become the mother of the Saviour, that she would become pregnant and give birth to the one who would save his people. Mary was very excited, but also a little confused. She hadn't done any of the things you need to do to have a baby. But the angel reassured her, don't worry, this will be a very special baby. God's Spirit will enable you to become pregnant. You shall give birth to his son. The baby is to be the Son of God. Now, Mary was engaged to a man called Joseph. They were getting ready to be married. Joseph was pretty worried when he discovered that Mary was pregnant because they hadn't done any of the things you need to do to have a baby. But the angel visited him too. Joseph was descended from the great King David, one of the greatest kings, the most wonderful of kings of Israel. And the angel visited him and said, don't worry, the baby to be born is God's son, and he is to be a great king, even greater than your ancestor David, that great king of old. Joseph was pretty excited too. Now, where do you think a great king would be born? Where do you think the Saviour, a hero, would be born? Perhaps in a palace, perhaps in a luxurious house, maybe in a hotel somewhere. Well, just as Mary and Joseph were getting ready for Jesus to be born, they had some bad news. The emperor had instructed everyone to go back to their ancestral towns, the towns that their families were from, so that they could be registered, so they could find out how many people there were. And Joseph was from a little village called Bethlehem. And so poor Mary and Joseph had to travel all the way to Bethlehem. And when they got there, they couldn't find anywhere to stay. Nowhere at all, let alone a palace or a luxurious house. The only place they could find was the place where the animals were kept. And very soon, Jesus was born. And they laid him in a manger, an animal's feeding trough, laid him in the hay. Now, I don't know about you, but when I have good news, I just have to tell someone. Is that like you? You can't keep it bottled up inside. You have to go and tell someone. Well, the angels were rejoicing at the birth of God's Son, at the coming of the Saviour, the coming of the greatest King. But it was the middle of the night. Everyone was asleep. There was no one to tell, apart from one group of people. In the fields, just outside Bethlehem, were shepherds. Being a shepherd wasn't a glamorous job. It was difficult. You weren't paid well, and you had to work all sorts of hours, even late at night. And the angels saw the shepherds and rushed and told them the good news. The shepherds were pretty startled. The angels told them that the Saviour had been born, the great king who would be even greater than that great king of old, David. God's son had been born. And the shepherds soon got over their astonishment and hurried off to visit Jesus, to see this wonderful thing that had happened. But there's one other group of visitors. Can you see the star above Jesus? That first appeared when Jesus was born, and some very clever people noticed it. Far, far away, the Magi, studiers of stars, saw this new star appear, and they knew what it meant. It meant there was exciting news. A king had been born, a great king, a saviour, God's son. And so they saddled their camels and set off on the long journey to visit this new king. It took them a very, very long time because they'd come from so far away. You know, we celebrate the birth of Jesus on December 25th. And on the same day, we celebrate the visit of the shepherds. But the Magi, the three wise men, have come from so far away. They're always a little bit late. They won't get there until January the 6th. But as they do, when they arrive, they too rejoice and celebrate Jesus' birth. The birth of the Saviour, the birth of the King, the birth of the Son of God. And they brought with them three very special gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Three special gifts for a very special baby. And now our crib scene is complete. Everyone is here. Mary and Joseph, the shepherds, the Magi, and right here in the middle is Jesus. You know, this scene teaches us something very important. Firstly, it reminds us that the greatest gift we have received isn't wrapped up under the tree. It's the gift of Jesus, God with us, God to join us in the highs and lows, the difficulties and the joys. And it reminds us that God didn't come in splendour, in glory. Instead, he came in simplicity, in humility, being born in a stable, laid in a manger. And it reminds us of two other important things. The shepherds remind us that this gift isn't just for the important, the people with status, the rulers and the powerful. This gift is for everyone, even the poor and forgotten, even those who everyone else would rather forget about. The gift of Jesus is for them too. And the Magi who travelled from so far away remind us that this gift isn't just for one people. This gift is for all people, for the whole world. Everyone can come to the manger. It's a strange scene, isn't it? These travellers from far away, the humble, simple shepherds, and Mary and Joseph, and a baby in a feeding trough. But this Christmas, they remind us that your Christmas doesn't have to be amazing, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be simple and humble, just like that first Christmas was. It can even be a little bit ramshackle, like this ramshackle room. And it reminds us, as we share our gifts with one another, as we watch other people unwrapping the presents we've given them, and as we unwrap the presents they have given us, that the greatest gift we have received is Jesus, the King, the Saviour, God's Son, here to join us in the highs and lows. For here at the manger, the world is united. The strong and the weak, the rich and the poor, all come together in celebration. So I hope that you have a wonderful and blessed Christmas. I hope you have a restful break, and I shall see you all in the new year. Merry Christmas.